Angela Rowe, and I work for Vista Hill Foundation, and I also brought 2 of our alumni of our program. Introduce yourself.
Alicia McCarran.
I'm Jacqueline Huffman. I'm the alumni president.
Yeah, so our idea is tiny town, big community. So a little bit about Vista Hill, just so you have a little bit of context, is we are a nonprofit organization since 1957. You might know us by hospitals, which we don't no longer have hospitals. Now we are all community-based, and so our 3 main areas are substance abuse, mental health, and developmental disabilities. The division that I work under is the Family Treatment and Recovery Services Division, and under that is our Parent Care Program, which they are both alumni of our Parent Care Program, and we have our Vista Hill Apartments. And then part of our Parent Care Program is our Parent Care Alumni Program that has probably at least 100, 150 people in our Parent Care Alumni. A little bit, this is some of my ideas. So how this idea came to be is that housing projects are very expensive. Vista Hill owns a 26 apartment complex in Lemon Grove. I have been trying to get Vista Hill to buy another property for a while. It is very expensive to buy a very large property like what we need. So my ideas were kind of watching some of those tiny home TV shows, I think everybody knows them, and started saying, ooh, that would be cheaper, and of course looking at costs and things like that. So that's kind of how the idea started percolating. Behind our sober living, we have a community center next door, and behind the community center, there's this, I call it my field of dreams. It's this vacant lot, and we have tried to have the city sell us that vacant lot many times, and they will not sell it to us yet. So I still say I have a field of dreams. And so the big idea is for a lot of our families, they are involved in child welfare services. Probably 90% of our clients are. And so really the idea came of how can we get kids out of foster care and maybe not even go into foster care, and how can we kind of prevent that? And also, in addition to keeping them out of foster care, is to reduce trauma to the kids and reduce foster care costs. So our problem statement, this was our final problem statement, and I'll tell you a little bit of some of the changes that we made. But we came here, 3 weeks ago, and we developed this problem statement together. And so our problem statement is how might we help families with co-occurring disorders involved in child welfare services by providing housing and supportive services in order to reduce foster care placements and costs and decrease trauma to the family. And this is a little bit of our project plan, and I apologize it's so tiny because I had many problems with this project plan. But we did a lot of our planning session actually in here, and then we also brought it back to Parent Care, and we spoke to others about some of the ideas we had and kind of altered our project plan depending on some of the feedback we received. And so we know a lot about this population. So like I said, 90% of our clients are involved in child welfare in some way. This is actually our sober living facility in Lemon Grove. This is just one side, it's a 4-quad. And so Jeff, you want to just tell a little bit about maybe an example of one of our alumni that maybe has went into a sober living type facility to regain custody of our kids?
So we have a lot of alumni that live at the sober living, and they easily regain custody of their children faster because there's constant UA testing, and there's a requirement for meetings, there's lots of supervision and curfews. So there's a lot of success stories of ladies that have stayed there for about a year to 18 months and then moved on and gotten their own homes and jobs and still have custody of their kids.
And so we kind of defined and kind of changed our problem statement. Our first problem statement did not include trauma, and it was kind of an oversight. And so the more we dug deeper and the more we thought about why we want to do this, is one of the ideas is to really reduce the trauma to the child and to the family. And this was just a quote I found really about, if we don't address these issues earlier on, then we're going to have problems later on. So it's going to be costly later on. So the more we can do at the beginning to help these families and these children, the better off they're going to be later on in life. And so we had an idea, and so we kind of added to it because we had some different ideas. So I came with this idea, And they both kind of added some things. So you guys want to talk a little, Alicia, do you want to talk a little bit about some of the things that we added to it?
Well,
We'll look at this one first.
Okay. Well, my first biggest thing for me was safety. A gated community with security, entrance one way, and then 2 exits at the back for fire escape. And then, you know, having that kind of security would help people like me with mental illness to feel safe in an environment like this. And it also help people that have suffered abuse feel safe, that they're in a safe environment, no one's going to get in to harm them. And then generational, like teens, they have their own little space, you know, because if a parent's sick, usually they got sick from their parents, and then it goes down the line, their children, their grandchildren, their great-grandchildren, and part of this is to help stop that. And then I want to turn over to Jackie.
Oh, okay, so I brought up the thought about telepsychiatry because it is really hard to find a psychiatrist, an outside psychiatrist faster. And I actually do telepsychiatry through the clinic that I'm part of right now. So it would be on site, and then we added, oh yeah, and then there'd be NAA meetings, parenting, DV groups, and basically a one-stop shop.
In the big community center.
So these were some of the ideas that they actually added to this program that I've already kind of thought of, but they just added some additional things that I thought were extremely helpful, even like the mobile medical clinic, and they talked about solar panels and things like that, things that I hadn't really thought about, but it was helpful to kind of have some different ideas. So this was actually our prototype. So Jackie here, she made this wonderful, beautiful prototype, and Alicia helped a little bit with it. So this was them actually at the forum, workshop, thank you. So you can see our wonderful Play-Doh prototype at the beginning with the popsicle sticks as our security gates. And then it morphed into our little plan, and then it morphed into this beautiful project. So do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Sure. So my kids actually helped me make this. We made some units. There'd be like 2-bedroom units or 1-bedroom units, and they'd all be energy efficient. There's solar panels, a playground, a community garden in the back, a food pantry, and then we have the telepsychiatry and the therapy and the mobile doctor and a little laundry room over here. So basically you could, if you were CWS involved, this would be the place you'd want to go if you had a co-occurring disorder.
So we kind of, we gathered more information. So again, that's where we talked about the security gates. We talked about where to place the playground. So for example, maybe the mom was in the community center doing a group. We even talked about putting a window so that she could see her kids and having the playground right outside so she could see the kids. And we also talked about the idea of technology, which is again something I hadn't really thought of, which I thought was a great idea. And so each phone, or each house will have a little, and Jackie even made like a little, I can't think of a better way of calling it, but an information hub in each house where they can actually do telehealth or telepsychiatry in their home or in the community center. We also thought about having it as a way for social workers to do kind of encrypted video technology for seeing families. Of course, it wouldn't replace their once a month requirement to meet with clients, but it would give them more information in a timely manner.
So it's like those touch screens that you see at McDonald's when you're ordering?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, and then you can do job search like right there from your house.
Yeah. Oh, and then I apologize. It would also be a way to control the energy efficiency within the house. Too. And so we're sharing our project with you here. There are some next steps that we would have to take. There are some logistical issues with tiny homes. I'm part of a tiny home community forum where there's a little bit, in fact, we actually had a tiny, I don't know if anybody went, but we had a tiny home presentation over here at the Jacobs Center about 2 years ago, I think. And there's different ideas. These are tiny homes. It could be container homes. It could be mobile homes. It could be, it could be different types of things. But tiny homes do have some challenges legally. So we would have to find cities that would be willing to waive some of those restrictions that they have. And of course, finding funders are a big issue. So, any questions? Just like
That round of applause for the- Thank you. Questions, comments?
This was a great presentation. I think this is a very needed thing in the community. Would this be, or maybe you haven't decided yet, but would this be something that would also be available to dads
Oh, sure.
as well as moms?
Families,
Yeah.
not just women and children.
So the concept is to
Teams.
keep the families together throughout the process because usually we're all separated.
Right.
And then that causes long-term trauma. And me as a former foster child and then also as a mother that was CWS involved, I've seen the long-term effects that it's had on myself and my family. So if there had been a place like this, because I also have a mental illness and I'm a recovering alcoholic, if there had been a place like this, I mean, it would have been a dream come true. However, I found parent care.
Yeah, generational is a huge thing. For me personally, when I was 3.5, my father got in a car wreck. How do you explain to a 3.5-year-old where daddy is and why you can't go see him? I didn't understand. I got separation anxiety and abandonment issues, which followed me into my later years, and then I had depression and anxiety, and I got involved in drugs, and then, you know, met the perfect guy, and he had even worse, you know, issues. And then we had children, and yada, so on and so forth. So my thing, that's why this teen center is important to me, because right now, I mean, I go through it with my eldest daughter on a daily basis. She has extremely bad social anxiety. She doesn't even like leaving the house just to maybe go to therapy. She'll take her dog for a walk. That's, I mean, I'm trying to break the cycle. And if I can help other people do it, then that's what it's all about.
And so, and one thing I think I failed to mention is we're really looking at this as an issue where, you know, the social workers come in and decide, okay, this family, we're debating on whether or not we're going to pull these kids or not. And we're not sure if we're going to pull them or not. And this might be an alternative to pulling them and putting them in foster care, is putting them in a supportive environment where the parents have eyes on them, where the kids, you know, are being seen, and where there's more supportive services. And so that's where I'm talking about reducing foster care costs, because instead putting them in this situation, having them in here for 1.5 years, having our homeless outreach workers, which we have all over Keepa County right now, being able to help them to find placement after, once they're a little more stable. And this, in child welfare feels a little more comfortable with them being out on their own. Well, thank you so much for your
Any
time.
questions, comments?
Sounds like, besides whatever the service needs are of the family, you're also trying to build a community around each of those families.
Safety and support.
I just want to commend you, ladies, for this amazing work. And it touched my heart when you said the children helped you. Funding wise, would that be state or county? Would that
It'd
be
be
like a
whoever
donor?
gave me
Whoever
money.
gave you money.
Yeah.
Okay, you have to check the books.
Show me the money.
And, and to be honest with you, I originally had thought of this as, I'm not getting help from anybody else, and how can Vista Hill do this? And so I thought about using a capital campaign to buy the land, and then potentially having, like, asking for family foundations to buy each individual tiny home, and then they can name it and things like that. That is a huge project to undertake, and you know, funding only goes so far. So just a different idea. Well, thank you so much.